The Chiefs win 26-25. I can't imagine anyone having any sort of conspiracy theories about how this game ended, or the fact that there was a phantom Joe Burrow fumble that was returned for a touchdown, or after they were showing Taylor Swift that all of a sudden this poor guy from Cincinnati gets called by pass interference and then they get moved up into field goal range. Can't imagine that anybody, Albert, on social media is complaining about this. But if you
Yeah.
take those two things out, which are two hard things to take out, this was an epic game.
Yep.
It was a return of Joe Burrow. I loved every second of it.
There's that meme on Twitter now that like seems to go. It's like, is it Carl Cheffers who's wearing the red striped uniform, referee uniform with the with the tomahawk on it? Is that what it? Yeah. So there's a lot of conspiracies out there that the referees work for the Chiefs, which it seems to have like transferred right over from the Patriots to the Chiefs, like a lot of
Yes.
other things, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I look like I think if you're, it's weird because this is like the see you in January game. I think if you're a Bengals fan, as hard as that was to watch, I'm sure, and as hard as the last 5 minutes were, to go through, is that I mean that team looks like what we thought they would look like. They were able to get after Patrick Mahomes with their defensive front. It looks like their defensive backs are starting to come along. Cam Taylor, Britt, and DJ Turner making plays on the ball. And then, offensively, I think once they get T. Higgins and the underrated one's Amarius Mims, like once they get those two guys back, you could really see where things are going to coalesce. Zach Moss, and I think Chase Brown's going to start to get more playing time in the backfield. I was really encouraged
I was too.
With how the Bengals looked. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, so the Chiefs are going to be there in the end. And again, in another similarity to the Patriot dynasty, you almost assume that they're going to be there for the AFC Championship game, whoever the opponent is on January 26th, and whether or not they get to the Super Bowl and win it, like different things can happen at the end of the year, but you just figure they're going to be there in the end. So I don't think anybody would be surprised if this winds up being the AFC title game. This felt like a lot of other games they've played where I mean, even coming out of halftime, this thing's going down to like the last few plays, and it didn't disappoint. And that's just like how automatic Harrison Butker is. I mean, I talked to him after the game for my column, and it's just as a kid who grew up in the 80s and 90s, that a 51 yarder is automatic for anyone is kind of crazy, And so like I just think all the way around, like you look at this Chiefs team as a Chiefs team that sort of expects good things to happen, and good things do happen for it. But if I were Cincinnati, I would walk away from that thinking we absolutely can win, and it doesn't need to be like at Paycor Stadium. We can win at Arrowhead in January, based on the way that game went.
There's 0-2 like the Giants are experiencing 0-2 right now, which
Yep.
is good Lord. There's 0-2 like what the Jaguars are experiencing right now, and we're going to get to that pretty soon. That's a good Lord situation, right? But then there's 0-2 like the Bengals, and you lose two of these games, and then but you have Washington on Monday Night Football next week, which what a terrible Monday Night Football game, by the way.
Yeah.
And
That
then
one,
you
well, at least that'll allow us to go to bed at halftime.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna check out on that one. And then we have at Carolina the week after. The Panthers, honestly, might
Might be
be.
relegated to the SEC soon.
I mean, and if then you're hoping that they're gonna win some games, you have, and then after that, Carolina, you have Baltimore who's 0-2, the Giants who are 0-2, the Browns who still look anemic offensively. So the Bengals are going to get right. They are going to get back into the mix. And listen, they almost knocked off the Chiefs with what, 5 targets and 4 catches, 30 some yards for Jamar Chase. So
Yeah.
that is going to all work itself out. One would
While we're there,
imagine.
by the way, I don't care what your precedents are. Cincinnati, go get Jamar Chase done. Get
Yep.
him signed now. Like
Yes.
if you get him signed now, there's no downside to it. He is going to be one of the top 5 receivers in football for the next half decade. He is the guy who Joe Burrow trusts the most. You need him locked in, and you are going to wind up costing yourself so much money by waiting.
It's the greatest time of year again. Football is back and it's here to stay until February. Over a million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite players' stats, touchdowns, passing yards, anything that you can think of. I'm not a gambler, guys, but when I remember going to the Belmont Stakes, trying to learn how to bet on horse racing, trying to pull people over and ask them how to handle this. What do I do on my betting slip? What do I say? Underdog makes it easier. It's straightforward, and signing up is even more simple. Head over to their easy to use app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with promo code MMQB, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code MMQB to claim your new customer special of a free pick and a deposit offer. You must be 18 plus to play, 21 in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
This thing is only going to get uglier if you wait till the next offseason. Go to Jamar Chase today and say to him, look, we generally don't do this in season. We normally like to have all of our contract situations buttoned up once the season begins. However, you are a special player. We want to take care of you. We want to live up to your word. Let's get you locked in. Let's get you paid now. This is a guy who showed us what kind of competitor he is. It's not like he's going to take his foot off the gas if he gets paid. In fact, I think it's almost the opposite, where it's going to focus him a little bit more. If he gets paid, maybe you won't see things like we saw at the end of the game yesterday. Get him paid. You send a good message to the rest of the locker room. You get T. Higgins back in. Now he's playing for a contract, right? And you'll be able to develop the younger guys who I think showed some promise yesterday. Like Jermaine Burton, if he has his head screwed on straight, has a lot of explosive ability as a rookie. And, Andre Yoshavis. I always mess up his name. I think we should call him Yosh, but like
All right.
Yoshivash. That's it. I always have to remember they call him Yosh. So it's
Where
Yoshivash.
you ended was nowhere close to where you started, but that's great.
Yoshivash. I think it's Yoshivash. Anyway, so the Princeton heptathlete, I think has shown why they've been telling anybody who will listen that like he's gonna have a real opportunity there. They even got something out of Gesicki yesterday. Like I think like so much on that team too can be enhanced if they get Jamar Chase taken care of. So I'm 100% like pay him $35.1 million per year, whatever it is, get him done. I just think to me, I, like, I, I hate to call something a no-brainer when I've never had to execute a complicated contract before like this, in my life, but it does seem like a pretty easy call to me.
I mean, you see, and I mean, you've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a long time. The common thread for all these successful teams at the end of the year, you don't go around a locker room. I remember doing this in Philly last year. I remember doing it in a couple of places. You don't go around and say, like, how did you guys make it here? Greg Bishop and I write the Super Bowl story every year, and that's what it's about. And so much of it is security. I feel like I belong here. I feel like there's
Mhm.
something, we're building something special. And yeah, some of that is platitudes, but to a man, most of that are guys who have had their contracts taken care of. What haven't we heard? And we'll get to Dallas in a second, Albert, is, oh man, I was super motivated by the fact that I'm staring off the edge of a financial cliff right now and I have no security beyond this season. And it really made me dial in and play harder. Nobody's ever said that. Security makes you play harder.
Yeah, and
Appreciation makes you play harder.
yeah, and here's the other thing. It's like I don't think we compare Jamar Chase to other receivers. I think we compare him to all non-quarterbacks the same way we did with
Sure.
Jefferson, right? So Micah Parsons is going to be super expensive. And if Micah Parsons winds up having a monster year under Mike Zimmer, which it looked like he was going to in the opener against Cleveland, maybe not as much against the Saints. That we'll get to that game in a minute. But um what happens if if the Cowboys decide we're going to pay Micah Parsons $40 million a year in March? We don't want to go through the whole song and dance that we did with Lamb. Let's get him done early. What do you think Jamar Chase's asking price is going to be?
Exactly. It's going to be more than Micah Parsons. And
Right.
I said this the second that the Justin Jefferson deal got done, which is obviously there's a missed opportunity, right?
Yep.
Because you could have squeezed it in before Jefferson got the deal done, and the Vikings made it easy for you, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
they waited until
Well, you were never, yeah. I mean, with Chase, you were never getting it done before Jefferson.
right.
But
And I understand why all those guys wanted to wait, rising tide lifts all boats. But now we're at the point where that $35 million, that's the hard cap. To me, I don't like I maybe Jamar Chase is like 35.1, somewhere around there, right? But do it now because, like you said, Micah Parsons has 15 sacks this year, 16
yeah,
sacks this year. That number is going to start getting way close to 40, and you don't want to pay a receiver $40 million a year. You don't want to do it.
right. And
But someone will pay it.
they've implicitly already made their choice on what they're going to do as far as like having, it's a great problem to have. Obviously, it's a champagne problem to have two receivers the level they do with Chase and Higgins, but they've implicitly made their decision. You can't keep both, right? Like not at the rate that those two are going to cost. So they've already made their decision that it's going to be Chase over Higgins. So why not just get the hard part done now?